Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. So welcome to the first video of 2024. I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in forever. I took a little break over the holidays to spend time with my family and, to kind of just like get everything ready for the new year. I really wanted to start the new year off organized because I feel like that was something that I did not do very well last year. That's why I took like a little bit of a break because I just wanted to, spend time with my family and then also just catch up on work. But yeah, I really missed you guys so much. Like it felt so weird not posting. Like I don't think I even posted on like Instagram or TikTok, nothing. I just went like completely MIA, but I missed you guys so much and I hope you all had an amazing December with your friends and with your family. 2023 was just such an amazing year and I'm just really hoping that 2024 is going to be even better for all of us. With that being said, let's get right into today's case. We're going to be talking about what happened to 11-year-old Valeria Teresa Gutierrez Ortiz. We're going to travel to Mexico for this case, and let me just say, I literally had nightmares after doing the research for this one. What happened to Valeria is just so unexpected. It's just something that you would never imagine happening in the way that it happened. And it was just really scary reading the details about this. Like, I swear I couldn't sleep just thinking about this. It was very traumatizing. As difficult as it is to hear and listen to, it's definitely very important to share. So yeah, with that, let's just get right into it and let's talk about what happened to Valeria. Valeria was born on September 17th, 2005 in Mexico to her parents Sergio and Jacqueline. Her parents divorced shortly after she was born, but they did remain amicable and in frequent contact because they split their time with Valeria. While doing the research for this case, I was watching a lot of interviews with Sergio and with Jacqueline, and it just like warms your heart to hear them speaking about how much they love their daughter, how much they were willing to put their differences aside to be good parents for Valeria and to make sure that she was, as happy as possible. Valeria would usually spend Thursday afternoon to Monday morning with her father, and then she would go back to her mom on Monday, stay there until Thursday, and then, just like repeat the process. So they had like a very set routine and everyone was just like used to this schedule. Valeria really enjoyed the schedule because she was able to spend time with her mom and with her dad all in the same week. She had a couple of siblings and one of them named Katia spoke out and said that her sister Valeria was just full of dreams and just had a heart full of compassion. She said that she was so affectionate and cared so much for others. She also had a lot of friends, so she was a very social 11-year-old little girl, and even at such a young age, she already knew what she wanted to do with her life. She had her heart set on studying medicine and becoming a doctor one day. Unfortunately, on June 8th, 2017, Valeria's life full of dreams, potential, and plans was cut short. On Thursday, June 8th, 2017, Valeria arrived home from school and was eagerly waiting for her dad Sergio to come pick her up and take her to his house so that she could spend the weekend with him, because as I mentioned earlier, she would spend Thursday to Monday with her dad. She was very excited about this, so she grabbed her neon orange backpack, filled it with her school supplies for the next day, with a change of clothes, with some toiletries, and she also took off her school uniform and put on like a more comfortable casual outfit. She put on some light blue jeans, a purple shirt, a light blue jacket, and black tennis shoes. Her dad eventually arrived at the house, but he wasn't alone. He actually showed up with his current partner at the time, who we will just refer to as Lola. So Lola and Sergio arrived to the mom's house on their bicycles because Valeria often liked to get on the bike with her dad and just like ride around with him. She really enjoyed the wind blowing in her hair, getting to watch everything as they passed by while her dad pedaled. So when she saw that her dad and Lola were on their bikes, she was so excited because this meant that she was going to, go on a bike ride with her dad and just like spend quality time with him. So she quickly grabbed her things, said goodbye to her mom Jacqueline, and then hopped on the bike with her dad. They started making their way to Sergio's house with Valeria riding with her dad and then Lola riding on another bike next to them. It was a pretty sunny day, however it did rain earlier that morning. Sergio hoped to beat the rain back to his house, but unfortunately at 4:30 p.m. drops of rain began to fall, and Sergio knew that it was probably going to rain more. Now he didn't want his daughter and all of her belongings to get soaking wet. I mean, Valeria was carrying her backpack with her clothes, with her toiletries, with her school supplies, with all of her stuff, so obviously it was going to get wet if they continued to to ride in the rain. So Sergio was like, you know what, let me just do something that I've done many times before. Sergio would sometimes put Valeria on a combi and then follow the combi on his bike while she rode inside of it to their house. Now, a combi is pretty much like a mini bus. I'll put some photos here on the screen so you guys can see what I'm referring to. So it's like a bus, but it's like much smaller, so not a lot of people can fit on it. So yeah, this was something that Valeria would do many times before. You know, sometimes she would get on the bus if it was raining, or if she had like a school project to carry, or just like too many things on her hand. She would just get on the bus and she felt comfortable doing this. In an interview, Sergio says that Valeria told him that she felt comfortable and safe doing this. So it's not like he was just like, yeah, I'm sure she'll be fine. Like, I'm sure she doesn't mind. He says that Valeria like verbally told him like, yeah, I'm comfortable doing this. And the reason she felt comfortable doing this is because normally the bus ride would be very short. And again, her dad would be behind the bus, you know, following it the entire time. She also told her dad that she felt really grown up and that she just wanted to start riding the bus alone. So that day, Sergio decided to go through with this plan. Him and Valeria stopped at a bus stop and then he helped her get on bus number 278 that followed Route 40. When Sergio was putting Valeria on the bus, he noticed that it was completely empty. So it was pretty much just going to be Valeria and the bus driver. This made Sergio feel a little bit more reassured because there was like no one else on the bus, like no like strangers, no like random people, you know, nothing like that. So he felt like it was safer because it was just going to be the bus driver who is, you know, a professional, you know, someone that's on the job. So he just felt much better about the plan. Even though Valeria knew which stop to get off on, Sergio reminded her, you know, get off on this stop, you know, I'll meet you right here, like I'm right behind you the entire time. And Valeria was like, okay, yes, I know the plan. Before taking her seat on the bus, Valeria gave her dad her cell phone because she was scared of getting it stolen just in case someone else came on the bus. And I feel like this is like a pretty common thing that happens, you know, especially in Mexico, but I've also seen it happen like in Vegas or, you know, in Chicago where people are riding the bus and then at a stop, people just like bombard the bus, quickly mug everybody, and then just get off the bus. So, you know, it's a pretty common thing that happens. So Valeria was just like, you know what? I'm not trying to risk someone coming on the bus and stealing my phone. Sergio grabs the phone, reminds Valeria of the plan, and then that was it. Valeria took her seat. Sergio got back on his bike and began following the bus with Lola riding right next to him. However, shortly after the ride began, Sergio started to get a strange feeling. He noticed that the bus was suddenly accelerating really fast, which was odd because like normally the bus would go at a constant speed. You know, it would never just go really fast out of nowhere. So he started to get a little bit worried about this, but at the same time, he didn't want to think anything bad was happening. You know, he didn't want to overthink. So he was just like, you know what, maybe the bus is running late for its schedule. Maybe it has to get to the next bus stop super quickly, and that's why it's accelerating. Sergio and Lola were doing their best to catch up with the bus, but you know, they were riding their bikes, so it was kind of hard for them to go at the same speed as a bus. Now, at some point on this route, he had lost view of the bus because again, the bus was going super quickly. So when Lola and him arrived at the bus stop near his house, there was no sign of Valeria. He started to get concerned, but again, he didn't want to think the worst. So he was thinking that maybe the bus had just arrived, you know, so quickly because it was speeding. So they had gotten there before him and Lola, and Valeria had already gotten off the bus, gone to his house, and was there waiting for him. So he quickly walked to his house, went inside, but didn't see his daughter. He started to go room by room, you know, he checked the bathroom, he checked everywhere, but there was just absolutely no sign of Valeria. Now, he was extremely worried. He quickly stopped traffic police to have them follow the trail of the bus number 278, but they couldn't find the bus. He then called Valeria's mom, Jacqueline, and told her what had happened. The two of them quickly began searching for her, and they started going to multiple stops that Valeria could have possibly gotten off at by mistake, but they didn't find her anywhere. They continued searching and searching, but they had no luck. They literally looked at all of the streets, they spoke with all of her friends, they spoke with like witnesses, but no one had seen her. They made their way to the bus headquarter offices to ask, you know, where is bus 278? Like, what is going on? But the employees at the office were not really being helpful. They kind of just took a look at the buses parked outside their parking lot, and they were like, no, yeah, like all the buses are here. But Jacqueline and Sergio were like, are you sure? Like, are you sure bus 278 is here? And the employees were like, yeah, like all the buses are here, like nothing's wrong. Jacqueline and Sergio just felt like the employees weren't really paying attention. So they kept trying to push them on this, but this is when the employees started to get like annoyed with them, and they pretty much just didn't want to give the family any other information or really help them. So because the employees were not helpful, the family decided to go to the authorities and report their 11-year-old daughter as missing. However, just like we have seen in so many other cases, Sergio and Jacqueline were told that not enough time had passed to report her as missing. Also, while they were at the police station, they literally had to wait hours before being attended. They got there at around 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were literally not attended until 6 a.m. that Friday. Authorities were just so dismissive, and they even told the family that Valeria probably got excited since she was like alone on the bus and decided to run away to go see her friends or to go see a boyfriend. They specifically told the family, quote, "It's fine, call her boyfriend. She went with her boyfriend. You guys probably didn't even know she had a boyfriend, but don't worry, she'll be back." When Jacqueline and Sergio heard this, they were like, are you crazy? Like, she would never run away. Like, why would she do that? Especially because her dad and Lola were riding right behind her. So why would she run away? Second of all, she doesn't have a boyfriend because she's only 11 years old. They just kept reiterating to the police, something is wrong. Like, this isn't just a runaway situation. But the police were not helpful. They really were in no rush to help look for Valeria, to even, print out a missing flyer, to even just announce it on the news, anything. Crucial time was being wasted. I mean, an 11-year-old little girl was missing, and authorities just weren't doing anything to help find her. The family kept pushing them, and authorities were like, okay, like enough, like how about you go to this place and see if they can help you? So Sergio and Jacqueline went to the Center for Attention to Missing and Absent Persons, where they were finally listened to, and the center released the Amber Alert at around 10 o'clock in the morning. Although this was like finally good news because they were finally getting help, so much time had passed at this point. No one had seen Valeria for hours, and her family was growing more and more worried. They were getting scared, and they were also feeling nervous. They were just feeling so frustrated because it literally felt like the transportation company wasn't really helping. They weren't helping track down the driver. They weren't helping track down the bus, nothing. And on top of that, Valeria had given her cell phone to her dad, so there was literally no way of getting in contact with her. The family was holding on to hope that everything would be okay, that this was just a misunderstanding, that maybe Valeria had gotten lost but would find her way back home soon. I mean, they really didn't want to believe that the worst had happened. But unfortunately, shortly after 1 p.m. on Friday, June 9th, Sergio and Jacqueline's worst fear became a reality. Valeria's half-clothed body was found inside bus 278. Occupants of Zandunga Street noticed that there was a bus parked around 10 p.m. the night Valeria went missing, so on Thursday, and that there was no owner with the bus. So they thought it was a little bit weird, but at the same time, there was a mechanic shop nearby, so they figured that someone had just parked the bus there because the next day someone from the repair shop was going to go take a look at it. However, the next morning on Friday, neighbors noticed that the bus was still parked there. So they started to get curious and they decided to go investigate. They looked through the bus windows, and unfortunately, that is when they saw the body of a little girl in the co-pilot seat with her underwear pulled down to her ankles. They immediately called the police, and when authorities arrived, they confirmed that this was indeed 11-year-old Valeria. Next to her body, they found a shirt that belonged to the aggressor, Valeria's clothes, her backpack, and a screwdriver. Her body was taken for an autopsy to be conducted, and then a funeral was held the following day on June 10th, 2017. So many family members and friends gathered to say their goodbyes to Valeria. When it was time to transport Valeria to the cemetery, police escorted the car that was transporting her, and this made the community pretty angry. The community felt like the police could have possibly prevented this tragedy if they had only listened to Jacqueline and Sergio from the beginning, and they could have possibly found Valeria that Thursday. But no, police didn't want to look for her. They didn't want to take action. They didn't want to do anything, and her body wasn't found until about 20 hours later. So the community just felt frustrated because, they truly believed that police could have saved Valeria. They thought, what is even the point in protecting and escorting her coffin if they didn't even care the slightest to protect her when it mattered most, when she was first reported missing and in danger. On the drive to the cemetery, neighbors and members of the community followed in a march shouting things like "Justice for Valeria" and "You guys aren't alone" to show support to the family. Dozens of pink and white balloons were released in the sky to accompany her into heaven. It was, of course, a very hard day for the family and for the community. I was watching an interview with her mother, Jacqueline, and she just sounded so frustrated just speaking about the situation. She was crying and she just sounded so angry talking about how the authorities handled her daughter's disappearance. She was like, yeah, they kept telling me that she was with a boyfriend and that she ran away, and I kept telling them like, no, listen to me. She did not run away, like something bad happened, but they just didn't care about what she had to say. I just can't imagine how frustrated the family must have felt because they knew that something was wrong, but police just didn't believe them. When Valeria's autopsy came back, it determined that she died due to asphyxiation. She had a fracture in her neck and she also had signs of essaying post-mortem. Whoever did this to her, which is just an evil person, was still walking free. When thinking about who could have done this, pretty much everything pointed to the bus driver. When Sergio put Valeria on the bus, there was literally no one else there besides the driver. So he's the one who must have committed this terrible crime. The question everyone had now was, who was the bus driver and where is he? While the search for the bus driver began, a march was held on June 12th where people took to the streets chanting things like, "Not one more, no more femicides, justice for Valeria," and she was only 11 years old. People were repulsed with the crime and were going to be vocal and going to make sure that this heinous crime did not go unpunished. Jacqueline said, quote, "The state of Mexico is responsible for the death of my daughter because they did nothing." Authorities were doing their best to track down the bus driver, so they went back to the bus headquarters and they asked other bus drivers, who normally drives bus 278 and who was working on Route 40. After speaking to a couple of the other bus drivers, police determined that a man named Jose Octavio Sanchez Razo was the bus driver the day that Valeria went missing and that he had only been working as a bus driver for 8 days. They were able to obtain a copy of his driver's license and they actually released his photo to the public. When police eventually found Jose and released his mugshot to the public, everyone was shocked. Jose looked nothing like the photo in his driver's license. In fact, his license said that he was 24 years old, but in real life, he was actually a full-grown, middle-aged man, nothing like his photo. So he was using an expired license and expired paperwork to get this job as a bus driver. When police went to detain him, he actually tried running away, but thankfully police were able to catch him. Jose did not want to speak. He didn't want to confess to anything. He didn't want to say anything. He was like super tight-lipped. Police take him down to the police station and they place him in preventative prison while they continue on with the investigation. Thankfully, just hours after being arrested, Jose ended up confessing to everything. He revealed to police what happened the day Valeria was killed, and he also explained to them why he was using an expired license and expired paperwork at his job. So let's talk about it. Jose confessed that he was using false paperwork because that was the only way that he could get work. And the reason why he was struggling to find work is because he had charges for R-wording 4 women between the ages of 17 and 20, 2 of them being from his ex-wife who reported him for R-wording her daughter and the daughter of a neighbor. Now, some reports state that he was in prison for these crimes, but others state that although reports were made against him, nothing was actually done to punish him. So I wasn't able to confirm whether or not he actually went to prison for doing this. So he was clearly a terrible person. I mean, who does something like that? It's just disgusting. So he was struggling to find work, which is why he used an expired license and expired paperwork so that he could get a job as a bus driver. When Valeria got on the bus, she sat towards the back, but Jose wanted her to sit closer to him. He pretty much wanted her to get in the co-pilot seat, which just saying that is so disturbing. The fact that he wanted this 11-year-old girl to sit close to him is so sick. He saw that Valeria was completely alone and wanted to take advantage of that. Now, Valeria refused to sit next to him, like she did not want to get near this man. So because she was refusing to cooperate, Jose grabbed her kind of like in a headlock. And, because Valeria was so tiny, she was only 11 years old and this guy was like, big and older, he grabbed her way too hard and he actually broke her neck while doing this. After breaking her neck, he decided to strangle her to death. And then he R-worded her post-mortem and left her in this bus and then just went about his life as if nothing had happened. He parked the bus in the neighborhood, pretty much abandoned it, and really wasn't worried if anyone would see him leaving the bus there or if anyone saw him committing this terrible crime. Nothing. Like, he literally just went on to live his life. It's just absolutely disturbing, and I just cannot believe that he did this in like broad daylight, knowing that her dad was behind her, knowing that people were going to look for her. It's so scary to think about, especially because Sergio was like, yeah, I felt safer putting her on the bus because it was just the driver. There was no one else there, so I figured she would be safe with him. But in the end, he was the one that they had to fear all along. I just cannot believe that he did this, and it's just so sick that this man already had a history of doing this and yet no one knew. So he was allowed to be a bus driver and be around, other people, other women, other children. So after confessing to what he did to Valeria, Jose was sent to prison and there he was placed in a cell with 2 other inmates. However, after only spending 3 days in prison, Jose was actually found dead in his cell. He was found with a clothesline rope around his neck at around 5 o'clock in the morning. His cellmates were actually the ones that reported finding him. After conducting the autopsy and, investigating the scene, it was determined that Jose had taken his own life. However, one of Jose's family members actually did an interview and said that Jose had told them that he was really scared of going to prison because he was receiving a lot of threats. So, police are saying that he took his own life. However, there are some people that believe that maybe Jose was killed by other inmates. The reason they believe this is because an inmate from that same prison did an interview to the media, and he said that he had been in that prison for the past 8 years, so he knows how things work around there. He said that Jose's death was not a suicide and that it was an order that came from outside of prison, which ordered inmates to kill him. He also added that Jose didn't only have 2 cellmates, that the prison was actually very overpopulated and that sometimes cells would have 15 or more people in one. He also added that shortly before Jose died, there was a lot of chaos happening in the cells. There was a lot of screaming and fighting and arguing, and he says that, if Jose was killed, that's most likely when it occurred, when like a brawl happened and like a fight to kind of like make a distraction. This inmate also added that when a prisoner appears hanging like how Jose did, that means that inmates killed him somewhere else and then staged to suicide. They wouldn't be held responsible for his death. And technically, when Jose was found, he wasn't even hanging. He was actually sitting down with the rope around his neck. So that is that inmate's perspective. And a lot of people, like I said, do believe that Jose was killed and that he didn't take his own life. However, that theory has never been confirmed by authorities. They truly do believe that he took his own life. Now, this isn't the only speculation around the case. There's actually a few, so let's talk about them. First, we're going to go back to the beginning when Sergio declared that he placed Valeria on the bus because it was raining. Well, shortly after Valeria went missing, surveillance video was released showing the exact moment that Valeria got on the bus. Now, the video is pretty blurry, like it's not super close-up shot. You can kind of just see Valeria and her dad in the background getting on the bus. So I'll put it here, but just letting you know it's probably going to be like super grainy. So people were looking at this footage and they noticed that there was no rain. In fact, it looked pretty sunny outside. So people began speculating all kinds of things, like maybe Sergio had sold his own daughter or that he was a part of the kidnapping, the murder, people were speculating all sorts of things. Honestly, the rumors were getting out of control, so Sergio actually did an interview where he pretty much cleared the air and said that he understands how it looks, but that it was raining in his side of town where his house is, and that in the video you can't see the raindrops, falling down, but that they were there. He also added that this wasn't like the first time that he put Valeria on the bus, so it's not like he planned this. This was something that he had done many times before. So he tried to clear the air and, tell people, I had nothing to do with this. Like, why would I want to do this to my own daughter who I loved? And it also hurt him to, see what people were saying about him and to hear these terrible accusations. I'm sure that he regrets putting her on the bus that day. I'm sure he thinks about this decision every single day of his life, but I definitely don't think that he ever imagined something like this would happen to his daughter in broad daylight with him literally like following the bus behind. So I do feel bad for him because, a lot of people were blaming him for something that he didn't do. At the end of the day, Jose was the one who decided to take Valeria's life and commit this terrible crime. And, he's the evil person here. I do understand why people are frustrated with Sergio because a lot of people think, I would never do this. Like, I would never put my kid on the bus all by themselves. So I understand, the frustration, but I definitely think that the last thing Sergio needs is for people to judge him and criticize him and send him, hateful messages. The second thing that confuses a lot of people about this case is that the family was very vocal about some inconsistencies in Valeria's autopsy. They were later told that there was semen from not one, but two different males found on Valeria's body. One of them they did test and it came back as a match to Jose. However, the other DNA has not been tested. So is one of Valeria's killers still on the loose? Another thing the family doesn't understand is that, as I mentioned, Valeria left her house wearing casual clothes. Like, she took off her school uniform because she wanted to be comfortable. However, when she was found, she was wearing her school uniform, which was actually torn in various parts. So a lot of people wonder, did the killer force her to dress herself in her school uniform before? Or did the killer dress her in this uniform after killing her? Why was she even in her school uniform to begin with? It's just a question that remains unanswered to this day, and the family just doesn't understand how this happened. The family also doesn't know if Jose was simply the scapegoat for the other killer, and, that's why he, took his own life so that he wouldn't confess to who the real killer was. It's kind of like a rabbit hole. Like, you can keep digging deeper and deeper into this. There's so many unanswered questions that the family, the community, and just like everyone has as to what actually happened in this case. According to the family, they just feel like they will never know for sure if, in fact, Jose was the true killer of Valeria or if he was framed. Circling back to what the police originally told Sergio and Jacqueline about how they had to wait 48 hours to report Valeria as missing, prosecutor Alejandro Gomez came out and said that what the police told them isn't true. He said that there is no rule that states that enough time has to pass before they make a report of a missing person. I know in the US it's the same way. Like, it's not true that you have to wait 48 hours to report someone as missing, but yet some law enforcement officials will still tell you that. So it's very upsetting to hear that Valeria's family was told that lie. And again, the family is just so vocal about how they didn't receive help right away. Jacqueline said, quote, "There were cameras in the streets, in different areas. They could have searched the zone. Why didn't they help me? They had the obligation to take us street by street to comb the area because she was an 11-year-old little girl." Now, after all of this happened, Valeria's family wanted to make changes to make sure that this didn't happen to any other little girl again. They actually met with the mayor of the city named Juan Hugo de la Rosa Garcia and with the director of citizen security, Jorge Amador. And they agreed to create new strategies and measures to guarantee that another crime like Valeria is not repeated. Jacqueline and Sergio sat with them for 2 hours, pointing out all the flaws in the protocols authorities follow and the flaws in public security. They said that they couldn't believe how Jose was literally working with expired paperwork and with an expired license, and how no one bothered to check it or, do like a background check or just like look into this guy. They also added how when they went to the bus headquarter offices, they didn't have a protocol to see if any buses were missing other than just like quickly looking in the parking lot. Like, there's no like tracking system to make sure that all the buses arrive on time or, to follow their route, nothing. So the family was just like, what, a lot of things need to be fixed, and they ended up signing an agreement with local authorities stating that the bus route 40 would be suspended until it was up to date with the law in regards to, checking employee paperwork, etc. The mayor also said that they will review how the employees are trained and that they are certified to drive public transportation condition through medical, psychological, and educational measures. He also added that there will be GPS systems in place to track all of the buses and that they will even put a panic button on board for passengers who are in danger. So, these were good intentions made by the mayor, and Valeria's family felt a little relieved knowing that they were doing everything they could to hopefully prevent something like this from happening again. However, their good intentions were not taken well. They were receiving death threats from the bus drivers on Route 40 since their route was shut down until the investigations about all the drivers and their paperwork's validity were finished. They were mad that things were going to change and that they were going to be looked into, so they literally started to threaten Sergio and Jacqueline, which is so upsetting. Like, I hate when I hear that in these cases, how family members get threatened for trying to make changes and for trying to get justice. Like, all Sergio and Jacqueline wanted was to prevent something like this from happening again, and because of them wanting to do this, they were now getting death threats. Jacqueline did request help from authorities to protect her since there were threats of violence made against her home, and Sergio even said that people were throwing stones at their houses and just making all of these, like terrible and threatening comments, so they were scared. Luckily, a police car was ordered to guard Jacqueline's home, so that did make them feel a little bit better. I don't think Jacqueline and Sergio were wrong in wanting changes to be made, because if someone had checked Jose's paperwork and realized that it was expired and that he had a record, they would have at least fired him. They would have at least reported him to the police or done something. But the fact that no one checked anything and he was allowed to work as a public transportation driver where he was in contact with so many people, with so many young women, or in this case with young girls such as Valeria. It's just all really upsetting, and it just breaks my heart to hear how the family was receiving threats and how they were scared to, fight for change. To this day, Valeria's parents are still doing their best to urge authorities to determine if Jose was actually Valeria's killer or if someone else did this. They still have doubts and they won't give up on finding the truth. Valeria's case is just so frustrating and just so unfair, and there's just so many unanswered questions. And the way Sergio and Jacqueline were treated by authorities when they tried to report their daughter as missing is just so infuriating. I would love to know what you guys think about this down below. I mean, what do you guys think about Jose? What do you guys think about the authorities? Everything about this case is just insane. My heart goes out to Valeria's family, and I'm just so sorry that this happened to her. She just wanted to spend the weekend with her dad and just have a good time with him, but instead, this evil and just heartless person took away her life. She deserved to experience the beauty of life. She deserved to become a doctor and follow her dreams, and it's just so unfair. Valeria's mom often looks at photos and watches videos of her daughter that she has saved on her phone, and she plays it anytime that she wants to hear her voice. She treasures those memories, and she just misses her daughter so much. She said that she ended up moving away from her home because just the memory of everything just lingers there, and it's just too difficult to live there. She also added that she can't even go on a bus anymore because it only makes her remember what happened to her little girl, and it's just too traumatizing. Something so simple like going on a bus is something you have to fear now due to monsters who are out there, trying to end people's lives. My heart aches for Valeria and for her family, and I truly hope that they do find peace. It's terrible that this keeps happening, and I just urge everyone to remain vigilant, to be cautious, to refrain from distractions while riding in Ubers or public transportation, to, carry self-defense tools, because the world is just so incredibly evil and just so unpredictable. Even if it's the same driver that you often see or the same bus route, still be alert. But alright, you guys, that is pretty much everything I have for today's video. As I mentioned, I would love to hear your thoughts on this case, and if there's ever any other cases you would like me to cover, make sure to leave me a comment down below so I can add it to my list. Thank you guys again so much for being here, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys!